Hello, I'm Alison Hargreaves from guidesforbrides.co.uk, and we now have that news that so many have been waiting for. The news that weddings from the 1st of August are going to be permitted with a reception. So at the moment there have been no receptions allowed across England. This is just for England we're talking about at the moment. The government are obviously working with and supporting Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. But for England, from the 1st of August, Boris has now announced that wedding receptions for up to 30 people will take place. So what is going on? He has just announced his new framework is all about opening up the country in a fast and fair way. There will be local lockdowns to control and contain any outbreaks. And those lockdowns, from tomorrow, there will be local authority ability, so local councils will be able to immediately close particular industries within their area or reduce numbers from the existing minimum numbers. So that is from tomorrow. That power is passed to local authorities. They will be working as well as central government to make sure that wherever there is a localised outbreak, it's just that area that closes down. So really good news to all of those with weddings planned in areas that are less likely to have these outbreaks. So from the 1st of August, they will be opening up a lot more businesses. They're opening up a lot more venues, first of all, not nightclubs or soft play areas, but most other venues are now opening up. And they're going to be allowing close contact businesses to operate. So that's things like beauticians will be able to do treatments on faces. They are also going to be piloting large gatherings from the 1st of August. That does not mean large gatherings can happen. I know that's incredibly disappointing for those big, particularly all of the huge number of big Asian weddings that would have been happening over the next couple of months. They will be piloting large gatherings. Those aren't happening yet. From the 1st of August, receptions with up to 30 people present can take place if they are COVID secure. So that's going to be following all of the normal COVID secure social distancing from the point of view of the space for guests and so on. They have not given us any additional guidance, but I know for certain that will be coming. It won't be far behind. We will be getting the exact details on whether you can have music, where you can have dancing, you can have speeches. All of that information I'm absolutely sure will follow over the next couple of days. Now that was from 1st of August. From the 1st of October, they are hoping to start opening conference centres, stadia, the bigger businesses. This is probably the first time that what we really class as a proper big Asian wedding are likely to be happening. So that's from October, these bigger venues that will allow for that level of participation involved. And then from November, they are looking at, and this seems very provisional, the possibility that in time for Christmas, there will be a more significant return to normality. So what does this mean from the point of view of your wedding, if your wedding is later on this year? Now, if it is booked for later on in July and you're wanting a reception, that is not going to happen. This is from the 1st of August. But if you have booked a wedding, or if you are happy to go ahead with a wedding with 30 or less guests, you can now have both the wedding and the reception. Part of the announcement today was also encouraging people back to work, so encouraging employers to make sure that their workplace is safe so people can return. So those with registrars who are not at the moment returning to work, there's a little bit of a change of emphasis from work from home to try and get back to work and try and make sure that your workplace is COVID secure. So that may really help with those people that are unable to get registrars at the moment. So if you've booked for 30, clearly that's going to go ahead. Great news for you. If you are happy with 30 guests, please negotiate with your venue and with your suppliers. Now, just bear in mind, I know it's been incredibly difficult for you, but just bear in mind, they have been spending a fortune keeping these venues open and keeping themselves ready. A lot of them haven't been able to use furlough because they've been wanting to be there ready for you when you need them to be there. So if you are negotiating with them, please just be kind and take that into consideration. If you're needing to cut down numbers, just work with them, find a way to not be asking for refunds if at all possible for those guests that it's not needed. Think about if you've got a wedding for 100, you're happy to cut it down to 30. Think about having your 30 now and then have your reception for 100 in the same venue next year rather than asking for a part refund. Let's try and avoid those situations. So sequel weddings we think are now going to be absolutely the way forward for August and September. If you have a larger wedding and it is meant to be during August or September, now is the time to look at your contract and negotiate with the venues. This is the clearest framework weddings have had right the way from the beginning. It is a pretty clear framework that is saying from 1st of August, very small receptions, 30 people. This is going to be what it's looking like for a while because it's going to be October before they open up these big places for these big weddings. So assume that, and this is an assumption, that if all goes well and your area doesn't have a local lockdown, that from October these bigger weddings can take place. And there's a chance from November that these completely unrestricted. This is where from November a more significant return to normality. They're wanting Christmas to happen. They're wanting these big Christmas parties and all of the other festivities that go on in December. So and the roadmap also involves shielded guests. Excuse me. So I know a lot of you are concerned about whether relatives will be advised against attending the wedding and perhaps wouldn't be insured if there was a problem as a result of them. Their health insurance might not be void. All of those sort of concerns that have been out there. The shielding is going to be being reduced. There is going to be far, far, far more testing possible. I know one of the solutions that's been suggested has been testing before a wedding, so antigen testing for all of your guests. That is not going to be possible for a while. They are ramping up the number of tests, but at the moment it is only people that have got symptoms that can be tested or those particularly at risk. So that's not something that we're seeing anytime soon. So I think what I might do is just start flicking through some of these questions. I do apologise if I've missed your question in particular. So how many people will be getting married and will have entertainment for 30 people when it will be background music potentially still? We don't know if that's going to be the case. We know that the government have been concerned about the idea of transmission through projecting voices, through singing. I would say any venue that can set it up in a COVID secure way may find that they are able to go ahead with whatever they're wanting to go ahead with. So Perspex screens are going up in place. Places that have got balconies, for example. Can we have a live band up on the balcony? There's venues like the Kimpton Fitzroy, for example, in London, they've got a big balcony with a glass screen along the bottom side of it. Somewhere like that, look at your venue and see where it can be adapted and whether your plans can work within there. So glad we postponed our 5th of September wedding. 30 people at a wedding wouldn't even cover our close family. And that's the case with a lot of you. This is where you need to have those conversations with venues. Venues have quite rightly been waiting for this announcement. We've known how close it's been. We've known that the chances are something will be happening before ministers go off on their summer recess next Wednesday. So I think a lot of venues, it seemed really painful the last week or so, the number of messages we've had from couples who have been saying, I'm locked in this contract for August. This is why we didn't know whether it would be 30, whether it would be 100, whether it would be August, whether it would be September, whether it would be October. We now know. So yes, if your wedding is bigger than 30 people, and this may be where you're needing to go back to contracts. We are very actively working with the CMA and with BASE to try and find a good solution that works for couples without putting the industry under more financial pressure when it comes to these postponements, because they're all getting quite busy for next year. They're not wanting people to postpone if the wedding can go ahead next year, and equally they're not wanting to have to hold you to contracts and get into a horrible dispute. So we are working very hard just to try and figure out a policy that's going to work for everyone and that everyone is comfortable with in those situations where, for example, your family is more than 30, there's critical people that can't be there. You know, what are the policies in those sort of situations? So we'll try and get those answers for you, and we'll get those as quickly as we possibly can. Do you think that the restriction of 30 guests will be in place at the end of September, beginning of October? End of September, I would say it probably will be. Beginning of October, no. I think the hope is that I think the government are being really, really sensible and conservative. The last thing they are going to want to do, and they are really aware of this from all of the noise. Thank you everyone who has been joining in on the What About Weddings hashtag. Everyone has made their thoughts known, and I'm sure that must have really helped ministers work out what's needed. And one of the things we were all saying is that we can't just spin on this one. We can't say, yes, weddings are this size this week and then suddenly change it again next week. So we've asked for a little bit of notice. It's not a great amount of notice for the 1st of August, but equally they know how many weddings take place. It's somewhere between 16 and 18% of those 240,000 weddings a year take place during August, and there are a lot of those still there. So getting this in place for August was I would imagine really important for the government in what they've been planning. So a lot of people already postponed. What do I mean by big? Do you think 150 in mid-September is unreasonable? Yes, sadly. I think it is highly, highly unlikely. I don't know. We will get more clarification, but from what I am seeing and what I have understood, it is 30 from the 1st of August, and that the intention is to open up the bigger conference centres and the stadia and have those sort of larger events from the 1st of October. Now, they are piloting larger gatherings from the 1st of August, so that may change. But I think if it was my wedding, if I was getting married, I'd probably be saying, okay, it's looking like it's probably less likely for larger groups before the 1st of October, now that they've announced it's 1st of October, that they are aiming to get those things going. They know that it takes a while to put those wheels in motion, to organise a conference, to organise a big sporting event, all of these things that take place in these larger venues, so these much bigger weddings, those with several hundred guests, usually involve these much bigger meeting spaces. And those have obviously been the hotspots in other countries. They're doing it for a reason. It's because those have been hotspots. Whether weddings for 100, 150 will come in before then, we can stay hopeful. It may happen, but I think we're getting quite a clear steer here that for 30, those that have understandably been clamouring and saying, come on, we don't want to have the wedding ceremony unless we can at least go out for a meal with our closest family and friends and feel that it's a reception, and we're not having to do that in secret. So this is great news. But I would say 150 by mid-September. It might happen, but that certainly isn't what the government are saying at the moment. October 25th, Ashley, yes, 100 guests. I would probably be jumping about and going, yes, it looks like it's going to happen. Obviously, I don't know whereabouts in the country you are. If there's a risk of a local outbreak, just bear that in mind. So just encourage everyone around you to be safe and sensible and make sure those don't happen. Yeah, it's great, as you say, Natasha, this is so great that they've listened to us and we have some news. Yes, that's all everyone's been asking for, is please just some clarity. So absolutely superb that we've got that clarity. So hoping for 80 in October, I think that's very reasonable. I think, yeah, superb. Is the 30 including yourselves and the bridal party and groomsmen? Yes, it includes everyone. Well, unless we get further guidance on that. So far, when they've said 30, they've meant 30, and that has involved everyone other than the staff that work for the venue. So it won't include your waitresses, cloakroom assistant, if you've got extra staff making sure that everything's kept really clean, all of those are excluded from the number, the venue coordinator, but your wedding planner would be included within that if they're not employed by the venue. That's really tough on the day planners, you know, that really is, and it may be what they'll be doing is they'll adapt the way they're working, so they're just outside the venue. You know, if there's a problem, you can call on them, they're right there. So it's not that they just won't be able to be part of that group within the venue itself. So who else will that include? That will include all of your children as well, and babies. Again, seems quite harsh, but when you think about the logic behind it, toddlers go from one person to the next. They don't understand social distancing, and babies tend to be, you know, a real magnet for passing around and really not being COVID secure. So you can understand why that's the case. Do you think 70 people and evening, same amount for September or October is okay? So we've not touched on evening receptions. It's very much evening, the things that tend to happen during the evening reception that tend to be the things that are less easy to do with COVID security. So it is quite possible that some of those elements might be excluded. I know that a lot of you have read and were supporting the roadmap we were putting forward, where we were saying, okay, so if for now it's only the couple having a first dance, we can live with that. If we can't have live singers, if it's background music, we can live with that. We just want to make sure that weddings can come back for those that are wanting to get married, and also to have a fair postponement policy in place and a clear idea of what can happen and when, so that those couples that feel locked in contracts, and for those venues that have had to stop their couples from abandoning ship, knowing that things might be okay, to help all of those, it's been really useful to have this fantastic clarity now. So December, holding out for wedding attempt number 2 on 5th of December. Yes, so that final bit in this this framework that Boris Johnson was setting out was that from November they're aiming for a more significant return to normality. So anyone wanting to know when there's going to be the hope of just a completely, totally, utterly normal wedding, that's what they're looking at, is from November. So if you have whatever you've got booked from November, December onwards, that booking, as far as I would be concerned, remains exactly as it is. Don't go postponing. You know, the government are trying to get everything working for that. So November, December onwards, and anyone next year, it's looking really positive. I think the government have been incredibly cautious in their approach, and it's going to pay off once weddings are back. Hopefully they will stay here. So end of November, November 28th, we've got 100 day and 30 more in the evening, keeping everything crossed. So yeah, absolutely. Hopefully it will happen. And Naomi says if you can go to a gig or a football match, surely you can have a bigger wedding. Again, we've said in the past, the issue is at weddings, you're going to hug and kiss people. It's that extra level of social contact that just doesn't happen in any other setting. But also there is that added social responsibility to each other in a wedding. And this is what we've been saying right from the beginning. You know, we feel that our track and trace that actually asks the question before anyone arrives, it asks that question and it reminds them again the day before, if you've got symptoms, if you've been in contact, please don't come. Those sort of measures will make sure that weddings don't become a hot spot. So we'll be really, really encouraging everyone to be using that. I think, I mean, this is great. There's a lot of great excitement that things can be going ahead. We will be keeping an eye on this throughout the day. We will answer any questions that I haven't been able to answer now. Nikita is with me here, desperately typing away as well. So we will get all of those answers to you as quickly as possible. There are a lot of conversations going on within the industry. We'll get more clarification on that as well. And hopefully we can get all of those answers, all those questions answered. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really, really pleased to have been able to bring this news to you. I know it means an awful lot to a lot of couples that are just wanting to have that small celebration. And it means a huge amount to those couples that are getting married later on in the year and just wanted to have a bit more of an idea. So thank you to all of you that joined in with that hashtag, What About Weddings, made some noise, got those questions answered. It seems to have made a difference. So huge number of people involved throughout the industry. I know it's me here and speaking, but there's a huge number of people that have just been absolutely working night and day to make this happen. So thank you to all of those. They all know who they are. So thank you very much indeed. And thank you to all of those amazing couples that have been happy to adapt plans. It really is amazing to see. Gosh, you really deserve the most amazing weddings if those are now happening in August, from August the 1st for you. So good luck with it, and we will keep in touch. Thank you.